Good morning. Happy Friday. It's been a busy week. So I got my coffee and I got my guitar. And I have a lot to do today. And I thought I would just first start with a cool guitar video to kind of start my day. I mean, not really. I've been doing business today. But I want to kind of return to my baseline so that I can do more business. I got to do some writing, so I'm kind of doing a mental reset. So this is going to serve as a mental reset. And that's another guitar tip for people out there, is that if you're anything like me and you do a lot of context switching, then playing guitar can kind of be your reset between different contexts. You know, people do other things too, like take a walk, things like that. But I like to play guitar, so I just play guitar all the time. A couple cool things are happening. My company is doing pretty well. It seems like I created these really cool little newspapers for Grooveseeker a while ago. Let me show these. Show a couple things. About a month ago, I came up with this idea for these cool little newspapers. And I have World AI. I'm an AI person from before LLMs. So I've been doing AI stuff for a long time. And even a couple people got married because of some work that I did that would be called AI engineering by today's standards back in 2003. But anyway, I came up with these cool little newspapers because it got really annoying talking about graph databases and AI to people that didn't understand graph databases and AI. And so I had this cool idea to make these little newspapers and show what events are happening anywhere. And we can do this for anywhere in the world, not just Portland and where I live. And because people are seeing these in print and not just a digital thing on a computer, they're getting really excited because they read these in coffee shops and things like that. And I do too. I always have my copy and it says David's copy on the top, and I take a highlighter pen and I'll highlight the 10 shows that I'm interested in going to that month, and then I'll find out pricing and things like that. So I've kind of rewound the internet to the beginning of the internet, kind of, it feels like, you know, when it was still useful. And it was more about sharing information, and it was less about likes, and it was less about using AI to throw away your voice and things like that. I use AI to empower humans and to be creative. I don't throw away my voice with AI. AI is a tool to me. AI is not the goal. So anyway, I made these little newspapers, and I even met the mayor last week. These are having so much impact and leading me to meeting people like the mayor. So a lot of really cool, exciting stuff going on. And it's kind of overwhelming sometimes because I'm one person and there's like 10 different exciting things going on. And so sometimes I'll just return back to the guitar because that's kind of my anchor. I wrote some science fiction last year, and there's a repeating theme in the science fiction that I was writing, and it's return to the song. So there's this phrase in the science fiction that I was working on. It's return to the song, return to the song, return to the song. And while I was writing this short science fiction, it kind of became a philosophy of mine that when things get to be overwhelming, or when there's just too much noise, or there's just too much going on, I find it useful to return to the song. And return to the song doesn't just mean return to a song, like a Grateful Dead song or any song in particular, but it basically just means return to familiarity or return to the baseline. And so this video right here is an example of me returning to the song. Today has been kind of a chaotic moment, or a chaotic morning. I've made some changes to my blog. It's no longer going to be a free blog. It's going to be a paid blog, because I've spent 6 years writing it, and over 6 years I've accumulated less than 20 paid readers. And so in 6 years I've spent thousands of hours writing for free. and educating people on how to do network analysis and how to do very serious OSINT and how to do cool AI stuff, but I'm not really being rewarded for it. And now is pretty dire times. I need to make money in order to pay mortgage, in order to feed my family, in order to not starve to death, in order to not become homeless. So if I'm only giving away free stuff, I'm literally going to become homeless. So what do you think I'm going to do? I'm not going to become homeless. I have a lot of useful skills, and I'm just going to change my blog to being what it used to be back in 2020, which was a very serious engineering blog that was related to open source intelligence and cybersecurity and things like that. Over time, the blog became this free thing where I like this video series I'm doing right now. I'm not charging you guys money for this. I have 32 years of experience. I could give guitar lessons and make money doing that, but I'm doing these for free right now. So I'll do free guitar lessons because I don't mind doing it, because this is psychologically helpful to me. So it's win-win. Those blog articles are not psychologically helpful for me to spend 4 hours doing research and development and then writing an article and then lose subscribers. That sometimes happens. It's so annoying. You'll do a ton of work and then people will leave you. And it's not that the work was flawed. It's just that the person who became a follower probably became a follower from seeing me on social media and just didn't really know much about the blog. And so when they saw the technical stuff, they left. But anyway, that blog is becoming a paid blog, and my business is doing well, and I'm having a million different conversations, and so I'm kind of overstimulated right now. So, okay, so I just spent 6 minutes talking about being overstimulated. And now we're going to return to the song. A couple of useful things that have been useful to me in my life. And now I repeat words, just bear with me. I don't do editing. I don't use fancy video software. Some things that have been useful to me as an entrepreneur and just person in general is that I learned about meditation a couple years ago. And I never could meditate, and I was always impatient growing up. You know, like when my grandpa and people would take me fishing. I can't just sit. Well, I probably can now because I learned meditation. But when I was growing up, I couldn't just sit still and do nothing. And I'd just get bored and fidget and stuff. But a few years ago, I discovered VR meditation, virtual reality meditation. And, you know, guitar has that same kind of feel to me as doing box breathing or VR meditation. You know, I come back to this moment and I'm just focused on the guitar, and all of the extra noise of my company and all the other stuff that's going on, it's just gone. And it's just me and this guitar now. Or just us now, you know. So if you get overstimulated, I do recommend getting into virtual reality meditation if you can afford to do that. You know, nobody has money these days, I don't think. But I bought mine in 2021 and I still use it for that. It's also got a cool little fishing app that is pretty relaxing, and you can catch sharks, you know, so it's a cool thing, and it's kind of social. So if you ever want VR tips, message me. But let's get back to guitar. So we're returning to the song. Maybe that's what I'll call this. Maybe that's what I'll call this video, is return to the song. Because the point is that when things get too much, return to your baseline. We're returning to our baseline. But I don't want to spend 30 minutes talking about what it means to return to your baseline. We have returned to our baseline. We are now at our baseline. I'm not thinking about the work stuff anymore. If you ever want to try box breathing, it's just breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. You can even do it when you're playing guitar. So it's typically done in 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds. So just very quickly, breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. And you can do that over and over and over until you still your mind. That's a way of doing breathing to calm yourself. But I thought that today's video might be kind of cool to talk about music scales. When you're learning guitar, you typically start with notes. Like I showed you the other day, the first thing I ever did was So that's A sharp, B sharp. C, sorry, C. So A sharp, B minor, B, C. Yep. So I was doing C, C, C. So just notes, okay? Everybody starts with notes because like you can hold down one thing. It's a lot easier to hold down one thing than it is to hold down that shape when you're a beginner, right? And so kind of the phase of the process of learning guitar is that you go from notes to chords, and a chord is a combination of more than one note. I think it's, anyway. And a triad is 3. And so if you want to play the A triad, it's, if you want to play the B triad, and the C triad, and the D triad. And you can also do this shape of a triad. So it just slides like that other video I showed you the other day, or E. So those are chords. So you go notes to learning chords. And between those two, you've got several years of learning, because first you have to learn a whole vocabulary of chords, and there's a lot to learn. I don't recommend trying to memorize every chord. I recommend learning chords and using them as you need them. So when you're learning a song, you're going to learn the C major 7th or something like that, or the A minor or the D minor 7th or something like that. You learn things as you need them. It would be trying to memorize every chord would be like trying to memorize every word in a Jane Austen book. She's a very expressive author, and so that's a lot of words to learn. You can get books like this, the Guitar Chord Bible, and they will show you many different versions of the same chord. They typically look like this. And so this is the E flat D sharp major, and it's showing 5 different versions of it at different positions on the neck. So I recommend you get a book like this to learn chords, but you're going to spend your entire life learning chords. And I've been playing guitar for 32 years, and I absolutely don't have all of the chords memorized, because I don't need to have all of the chords memorized. I need the ones that I need in order to get through the songs that I need to get through. So notes and chords. But a very important thing that's missing is scales. And people have a love and hate, or I'd say that people have a hate relationship with scales for the most part, because it's this thing that musicians have to memorize. And if you're taking piano lessons or if you're classically trained, you're going to learn scales. You're going to get hammered into you. And with guitar, it's almost like scales aren't quite taken seriously, because the many things will just be done with the pentatonic, minor pentatonic. So and so that just gets used over and over and over. You're playing something in A. So there's a lot you can just do with the scale, with just that one scale. And so the pentatonic just gets used all over the place in rock and roll. And a lot of guitar players aren't classically trained. And so we will sometimes get stuck on one scale. And so for 32 years of playing, that scale has probably dominated most of my playing, because it gets used in a lot of music. But a couple years ago, because I'm a natural language processing nerd and graph nerd, and I know how to do really cool things with language, I realized that I could use natural language processing with music scales to identify scale similarity. And so I did this really cool research project in my blog where I did music scale similarity of 30 different music scales. And I basically found how all the different music scales fit together. And as a result, I ended up with 4 families of scales, and I have them in a notebook. And I just thought it'd be kind of fun for us to spend a few minutes where I'm just kind of poking through each of the scales a few times to show you the different voicings that they have. And maybe you'll hear one that you like, and you'll be like, ooh, the Phrygian scale is pretty cool. Or, ooh, jazz minor mode 7th. I haven't heard of that before, that's neat. Or harmonic major mode 5, what's that? Or harmonic major mode 4, huh, what's that? What's the difference between that and mode 5? I have a cool book, and it's probably not this one. Oh, it is. Lucky day. So what happened was a couple years ago I bought this book called the Guitar Scales Bible, and it's a lot of stuff all over the place. And one thing that really drives me nuts about scales is that you'll see these diagrams like this. They're just a whole bunch of notes. I cannot work with that. My mind does not work with that kind of thing. But that's the C Mixolydian over the entire fretboard. And so if you wanted to play the C Mixolydian over the entire fretboard, all of these notes work for you. So you can just kind of dance around in the spots. But the same scale can be split up 5 different ways. And so you can see right there, it's been split up into 5 different boxes. And so if you want to learn that one scale, it has 5 different positions that you can learn. But there are dozens of scales. So let's just say that there's 30 scales. There's more than 30 scales, but let's just say that there's 30 scales that you have to memorize. So this is 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I've written down 25. So 30 is not a stretch. I've got 35 in my book, and there's 5 positions for each. So 125 scales if I wanted to learn all of their positions. And so when I wanted to learn the different voicings of the scales, I didn't want to learn each of the positions. I just wanted to learn what was the voice of the scale. And so I just put everything as as F, or I didn't even say where the root is. That's right. I just started everything with the root, so that way I can slide this around. And I started the root on the first string, and so basically the anchor will always be here. So if I wanted to play the A major, then I'm going to start here on the A note. And if I want to play the B major, then I'm going to start on the B. And if I want to play the so that's the A major. Okay. So anyway, in my diagram, I start everything at the root right there because it's easy for me to figure out where I'm going. And I just wanted to hear how these sound. So here's what I'll do. We're 18 minutes into this and I don't want to keep rambling. I want to get through 25 of these scales. I'm going to name them and I'm going to play it once through. And then I'm going to play it again through. And then I'm going to just kind of noodle around on it for a minute. And then we'll move on to the next one. And so we'll end at the 30-minute mark. So we'll end in 12 minutes and we'll just get through 25 scales. And I thought it'd be cool if I let you kind of experience the voicings that each one of these have. And you might hear something that catches your ear and you'll want to learn that scale. So there's 4 sets in here. And these are the labels that I gave them. And so set 1, I call minor bluesy. And then set 2, I didn't even know what to name it. It just stood out as harder to work with for some reason. And then set 3 was, I just called it melodic/exotic. And then set 4 was my others. So maybe we'll come up with a good label for set 2. Maybe you guys can recommend it in the comments. But these were what the voices sounded like, or the voices, that sounds so creepy to say. This is what the musical voices sounded like when I was playing the scales. The music voice, like that has a different voice than the mixolydian is a cool scale that kind of mixes major and minor, it feels like. Okay, so we'll start with the minor and bluesy ones. But I also included a major, so I did this a couple years ago, just bear with me. So here's the major scale, and we'll just do the A major scale. Right, do a deer, a female deer. Whatever. Didn't intend to play do a deer right now, but so that's the major scale, right? Goes good with the A major. Okay. Now, just for a comparison, the mixolydian scale sounds very similar to the major scale, but the difference is instead of using that note, it's going to use this note. So it's going to take on a slight minor voicing, and the Grateful Dead use this a lot, which is one of the reasons I love it. So see, it's that note instead of this note. So the difference is a single note between the mixolydian and the major. Major, mixolydian. Personally, I play the mixolydian a lot more than I play the major, because I play a lot more Grateful Dead. Now, the minor scale, if you play Metallica Fade to Black, you might have heard this. That's the scale. But I like to play across the whole neck, so. Let me try something. So that's Metallica. So Metallica does a lot with minor. So the minor scale one more time. And the major again. And the minor. See, it's different. Next is the Dorian. I like that a lot. Then the pentatonic minor, which is just called the pentatonic. It's so common. I feel like it's impossible to not throw in blues when you're playing that, because it just gets associated with so much. So. also probably the easiest scale in my opinion, because it's a really boxy shape. It's just 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1 4 4 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3 1 4 1. Easy. So that's the one that you want to spend a lot of time on, pentatonic. Oh my gosh, 2553. We might not make it through all 25 of these. Maybe we'll just make it through the minor set first. Harmonic minor. I love the harmonic minor. This gets used in Summertime by Janis Joplin. And I have my own song that I'm writing, and it goes. But the importance is the harmonic minor. So far we've only made it through 5 scales, and there's 20 more to go, and we have 2 minutes left. So scales are something that you should take seriously, and I'll be happy to share some screenshots from this after I figure out how. So the jazz minor. So it's a slightly different voicing. Then the blues scale. I really like this next one. It's called the blues scale. It's literally just called the blues scale. And then the next is the minor blues. That's the one I like the most. So I like the stair step kind of thing. Oops. And so then that leads us to the Mixolydian. And then Jazz Minor Mode 4. Now we get to the interesting names. It's a very unusual scale. Feels next is the harmonic major instead of harmonic minor. I like this one a lot. Next is harmonic minor mode 3. Wow. Something like that. Major blues. Major pentatonic. So again, the minor pentatonic was, oops. So the major pentatonic, on the other hand, okay. That completes page 1. Maybe let's stop there, 31-minute mark. So we made it through about half of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12. Okay, yeah, we made it through 14 of them. So notes, chords, scales. And then the rest is, you know, adding in your little voicings. You know, just doing fancy things. Those are some of the parts to learning guitar. So it's more than hand strength and pushing down the right notes. You also have to learn the sequence of notes and things like that. And the sequence of notes, the music scales, certain scales go well with certain chord progressions and certain chord types. So if you're playing minor chords, then you'll want to use minor scales very often. But sometimes the Mixolydian, for instance, can be a cool bridge between worlds. Okay, let's end there. We wanted to return to the song. I wanted to explore something new, and we did. We talked a little bit about music scales, and I gave a little bit of my experience. Didn't really ramble, we just explored, and that's what we intended to do. So thanks for hanging out in this video. Scales are very hard to memorize. I don't have a whole lot of them memorized. I don't know what it is about music scales. I can't memorize them. And so I'll typically work them into a song, and then once it's been worked into a song, then it will stay with me. So I don't really do great with just memorizing facts. I memorize things after they become relatable to me in some way. So I think a lot of you guys will probably relate to that. So just don't feel too bad if you can't memorize every scale in the world. I can't either. So I kind of assume that most people haven't got all of the music scales memorized. Maybe that's why guitarists just stay on that one scale, you know. And that's not really fair of me to say of all guitarists. They don't all stay on just the pentatonic, but you will hear so much pentatonic if you listen to rock and roll. Okay, that's all. I gotta get to work. Thanks for hanging out with me today and helping me wake up a little bit. Have a great day. Happy Friday.